The opinions expressed by the host and guests in this show are not necessarily the views of Children's Health Defense.
Thank you very much for your attention today, committee members. My name is Candice Edwards, and I'm a mother, a Christian, and a fierce advocate for my son, a beautiful 10-year-old boy with a generalized intellectual disability, ADHD, autism, has seizures, and an auditory processing disorder. He is finally in an incredible Chapter 766 program that provides the intensive support he needs. Supports our local public school system simply could not provide. I am here today to voice my strong opposition to the Community Immunity Act and the religious exemption bills. This is the fourth time that I have testified on this legislation. My son was just 3 years old when this all began. That marks nearly 7 years of anxiety, exhaustion, wondering every year if the world that my child knows would be ripped away. And in fact, I'm sure the stress gave me breast cancer. Let me be clear. My son's life was permanently altered after a routine vaccination. He developed serious, lifelong medical complications, and I've spent many times sat beside his hospital bed begging to God to spare him. Doctors told us that he should not receive further vaccinations to protect his life, but none will sign the medical exemption he needs. And now this bill tells me I must risk his life or surrender his education. That is a cruel and impossible choice. During the pandemic, I tried homeschooling and it nearly broke me. My son's needs and therapies, the learning style and strategies are far beyond my ability. And if this bill passes, I'll be forced to leave my job and apply for any and all assistance, such as food stamps, cash assistance, mass health, just to survive and provide. Massachusetts says that it is a sanctuary for the vulnerable, for diversity, equity, and inclusion. But where is that protection for families like mine? We pay our taxes, we follow the law, we file exemptions as is required, and in return, we are mocked, vilified, and targeted, called abusers of the law and anti-vaxxers just because we want our children in school. This bill targets families like mine under the guise of public health, but the data is clear. The largest gap in immunization comes from non-compliant students, not religious families. That group is up to 11 times larger. So if this is about public health, why are we the ones being targeted? The Community Immunity Act terrifies me, especially the minor consent provision. There are no age minimums, no mental capacity safeguards. This will allow my son with significant cognitive and communication challenges to consent to medical procedures without my knowledge or input. He does not understand his medical history or the risks involved. Granting him legal authority to make those decisions would put him in grave danger.
Thank you. If you could wrap up, thank you.
Can I just say one more sentence at the end?
Please wrap up.
And let me say this plainly. This bill assumes that removing the religious exemption will increase vaccination rates. But I will not gamble with my child's life or betray our faith to buy his place in the public education system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, America. Good morning, world. Good morning, CHD. Welcome. Once again, my name is Michael Kane. I am the founder of Teachers for Choice. And in Massachusetts, the religious exemption is under fire. Today, we have Candice Edwards and Allison Chapman from Health Action Massachusetts to discuss a landmark critical hearing that just happened this past Friday. You just saw Candice Edwards there delivering her testimony. Over 8 hours of testimony were given. Over 90% of it were against repealing the religious exemption. We're against taking away religious and medical freedom. And we are going to get into in-depth what happened and what is going to happen and what everybody needs to be watching for, because this battle has just begun and it is a very important one. But first, as always, before we go into that, we have just a little bit of news. A letter has just been written and penned and sent to the Trump administration. Religious exemption restoration plan sent in letter to the Trump administration. Children's Health Defense, ICANN, the MAHA Institute, Teachers for Choice, Physicians for Informed Consent, many others have signed on with an action plan that is being sent to the Religious Liberty Commission that is meeting on June 16th in Washington, D.C. This is calling for New York, Maine, Connecticut, and California's religious exemption for children to attend school to be reinstated, and a federal plan on what can be done. What can the federal government do? I mean, this is based on the First Amendment of religious freedom. There is a federal entry point onto this. So that's very important. You could read that letter at teachersforchoice.substack.com, and we will definitely be covering the Religious Liberty Commission in future shows. Representative Massey just put out a very important tweet. The big, beautiful bill contains a provision banning state and local governments from regulating AI. It's worse than you think. It would make it easier for corporations to get zoning variances. So massive AI data centers could be built in close proximity to residential areas. Let's zoom in on the pink highlights there. No state or political subdivision thereof may enforce during the 10-year period beginning on the date of enactment of this act, any law or regulation of the state or a political subdivision thereof limiting, restricting, or otherwise regulating artificial intelligence models, artificial intelligence systems, or automated decision systems entered into interstate commerce. So for 10 years, the states would have no input as the entire national AI infrastructure is being built. 10 years goes way beyond the Trump administration. So this is something that is going to have implications on multiple administrations and on all of us. And if you don't like it, well, you can't go to your state house. You got to go to DC and try to get them to pass another big, beautiful law to change it. So let's watch out. Listen, we got to call balls and strikes on everything. We got to be watching all of this, especially with this announcement that Palantir is now going to be creating a system of surveillance for civilians. It's already done in military and intelligence apparatuses, and now they're announcing Palantir is going to be rolling this out into the IRS and into other civilian infrastructure in the federal government. So these are things we will be covering on future shows. Again, we have to call balls and strikes on everything. We have to look out for we, the people, before all else. Lastly, I believe it was last week, I had a wonderful young man on the show named Angelo. Angelo has Down syndrome. He has multiple immune disorders. He can't get vaccinated, and he was kicked out of school. Well, this weekend, Angelo partied downtown in New York City with the New York freedom fighters who have been fighting for years for medical freedom. He was able to come out and dance and just, just be Angelo. He's just such an amazing young man who so unfortunately is banned from school. He's called the mayor in school. He's just one of these people whose soul just shines right out of him all the time. And Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, does not care at all that he's kicked out of school. Matter of fact, last week we met with Kathy Hochul's office. Mary Holland was there with me, John Gilmore, myself, and many others. Angelo was there and spoke to a staffer in Hochul's office and said, I just want to go back to school. Nothing. They've done nothing. It really, truly feels like they don't care at all. So we're going to be following up on that for sure. Angelo's an amazing kid. We've seen hundreds of kids kicked out of school because their medical exemptions were denied. And this is exactly what Massachusetts is fighting to make sure does not happen there. Because what happened in New York is they got rid of the religious exemption and restricted the medical exemption basically into non-existent. So that's a good point for us to start here. I'd like to bring on Candice Edwards and Allison Chapman from Health Action, Massachusetts. Ladies, thank you so much for joining me today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
us. So Candice, I'll just start with you quickly. We started with your testimony, really impactful testimony, getting personal, talking about your own child, talking about this battle you've been in for a long time. Just tell us, how do you think it went? How did you feel the hearing went overall?
After testifying on these bills for, now this will be the fourth time, I left feeling very different than the prior sessions. And I think predominantly it was because, one, the chair was very, very, very different than what we've experienced before. And then I think as well, we just had such a diverse representation from just such a wide spectrum of individuals and stories that were coming across in opposition to the removal of the religious exemption and Senator Roush's bill as well. So I think that when I left, I just had this overwhelming sense that we just had such well-rounded representation to just communicate that this does not need to happen, it should not happen, and that it just impacts so many individuals from different backgrounds.
Yeah, I largely agree with that. I wasn't there, but I watched hours and hours of it remotely as it was being streamed. And what you brought up about the chair was interesting. You said that the chair was very engaged, was watching every single person. And oftentimes we don't get that in these hearings. Oftentimes these chair people are on their phones, they're kind of ignoring and like letting us know that, kind of like almost blowing us off before anything has happened. But I did not get that sense. I got a sense that whether they agreed with you or not, they wanted to make sure they were paying attention to every detail and getting it all correctly. Allison, I don't know what you might think about that.
Well, we were joking because she's talking about Senator Driscoll. I mean, Senator Driscoll, because Marjorie Decker is the House chair, but he's the Senate chair. He was the one who was paying attention. He was the one running it. He was really looking at you. He, not just looking at you, but feeling you. But the funny thing is he never went to the bathroom the entire day. And we were joking, like, what does he have, a bottle under the desk? I mean, and that's how committed he was to hearing us all. And hasn't been the same in the past.
Wow,
and there were other representatives too that were also, Representative Justin Thurber. He didn't go to the bathroom all day. I mean, it was very different than what had happened before, and it was refreshing, if anything. Yeah. And one other thing that I'd noticed too was his willingness to let people go over their testimony time. I had testified quite early on, and so I thought he was telling me to be that I was being cut off, but he was actually giving me time to finish. And there was even a lawyer on our side that was talking about the constitutional arguments about these bills, and he let her go way over. So yeah,
I saw that.
Very interesting.
She went over 5 minutes, which the mark was 3 minutes, and I don't even think they played the bell on her. I think they were just giving her respect as an attorney, that like, you want to go, we gave respect to the lawmakers here. They had a lot of time. We're giving that to you as well too. That's really fascinating. You talk about the diversity of the group. One of the most beautiful parts of the hearing were all the children. At one point, the Brown family came up with multiple children, and we see Dad with the little baby and pouch there. But I'd like to show a couple of the kids that did testify. One was a girl who wanted to make sure we all knew she was really healthy. Let's show her.
I'm healthy. I mean, really healthy. I almost never get sick. My mom's friends always joke and call me the bionic kid. We eat healthy foods and exercise. I've learned that real health doesn't come from shots and medicines. Real health comes from the choices you make every day. My family has been fighting for 7 years to keep our right to choose. Not just for me, but for every family who believes with faith and freedom matter. My mom was hurt by a drug that was supposed to help her. It changed her entire life. I watched her struggle every day. If I'm allergic to an ingredient in the shots, do you even care? This is why we're careful about everything we put into and on our bodies. That's why we say no to a lot of things. Most people don't even question. Our choices has been to homeschool, but it shouldn't be something forcing on us. People want to take away our religious exemptions.
So it's really interesting, Candice. You had brought up a lot of the homeschool community actually showed up, because sometimes you see the homeschool community just backs off of this stuff and they say, well, this isn't our issue. But that was different for this hearing, wasn't it?
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to be choked up, but it's the kids that when you're seeing the children that are impacted, children standing up for other children. I mean, this is the whole reason why we're doing all of this is our kids, and all we want is our kids to go to school, and just to see them there being so brave and to speak up and use their voice. It just I'm so incredibly proud of them. I think they're so incredibly brave, but they shouldn't be in this position in the first place. They should be at the playground. There were graduations that were happening that day, sports days, birthday parties, so many things that were happening that day. They shouldn't have been in the hearing room trying to protect themselves and other children. And so that's why I get so emotional about it all. But, I absolutely adore the bionic child. She made me a bracelet at the hearing to keep me strong, and I'm going to keep wearing it. But it's hard not to get emotional on this issues with the kids.
Yeah, and we're might get just a little emotional here again as well too. Here's a young lady who has been testifying at the Capitol in Massachusetts for the past 7 years, and she made sure to let the lawmakers know that on Friday. Let's show that clip.
At 19, this is my third time testifying to preserve my right to the education opportunities available in this state. And unfortunately, I have had to continually advocate for myself and other children since I was just 13 years old. I pray that I am able to complete my degrees at the college where I am thriving and never sit before this legislation pleading for you to see I am worthy of an education.
Yeah, just so powerful. Allison, you actually helped to lead a campaign, I Am Worthy. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, Candice and I did that a few years ago, and that actually really got the legislators. We put our children and other people's kids in the video, and they all talked about how this bill would threaten their ability to go to school, and that they are worthy, just like everyone else, of an education. And they all finished with "I am worthy," and it was very powerful. My son is an unreliable speaker, but he was in it saying it. I think it was very clear that there were very diverse kids in there. Some that were able to advocate for themselves, and some that were some of the kids that would have been denied with the severely disabled kids, children with IEPs and with speech therapy and OTs and PTs. And I think it's really important for legislators who pretend to want everyone to, be not discriminated against, right? This is their big thing, to understand that they would be discriminating against the most vulnerable population. And I think Candice and I have tried to impart that to them for a really long time, but it's when the kids come on that you really, really feel it and you see it. Now she is great, but the fact that she had to stress herself out for the last 7 years to make sure that she was going to be able to have an education is completely unacceptable. It is cruel and unusual punishment to continually do this to children in all of these states, and it all comes back from funding from pharma, and it's their fault. They are the ones who are creating this, and it's too much stress on these families. It's time to end it.
Yeah, I just want to talk about a little bit about the bills themselves, right? That we're facing. Before we get to the religious exemption repeal, there's this Community Immunity Act that is a very clever, almost deceptive way of chopping away at parental rights, of making the religious exemption less robust, actually not having quite the teeth that it have, could be revoked, could be taken away. Candice, why don't you speak to us a little bit about this act?
Well, what was very telling about the hearing is Rebecca Rauch was very clear in she was asked about the constitutionality of the religious exemption, and she basically said, yes, we're going to have legal challenges with this, but this is how we're going to get around it, alluding to minors consenting to preventative care without parental consent or knowledge. That is the workaround to avoid all these lawsuits. And that is just absolutely horrendous, just to completely remove parents from any medical decisions whatsoever. And there's no intellectual or age guidelines. And again, as in my testimony, I'd said, I have a child with significant challenges, has no idea about his medical history or background whatsoever. And under her legislation, he would be able to consent to preventative medical care. And he could have an adverse event. I could not know what or why this is happening. It would be hidden from me. I would be completely in the dark. He would not be able to communicate it to me. And that would put him in grave and dire danger. Every parent should be absolutely horrified and terrified about what she's trying to do.
Right. So this Community Immunity Act would allow minors to consent to medical interventions, including vaccination, but also has these thresholds, right? That if they feel a school building falls below community immunity, which is 95%, or it used to be 85%, they kind of throw numbers out there. But when it falls below that, they can then revoke the exemptions that your children have. Allison, can you speak to that just a little bit?
Yeah, it's called the Elevated Risk Program. And so any school that falls below a certain threshold would have to announce it, like publicize it. Like, that's not discriminatory and targeting, but in that same language, they added something this year, which would allow the DPH to decide in any school that falls below herd immunity that all people who don't have vaccination, which would be paperwork or exemptions, anybody without paperwork and anyone with an exemption could be sent home without any emergency at all. So that basically says, if your school falls below, then you would send home half. So I in my testimony, I wasn't even able to say this part, but I said, what are you going to send home half a Mission Hill? What kind of health consequences is that going to have on inner city Boston? You know, they're even talking about shutting down people without paperwork, both people who are complying and not complying. It is very dangerous legislation. It is extremely discriminatory, and it is way overreaching government.
Candice, could you speak to that? I had heard that, I believe that you're the one who told me they're trying to sneak in some of these provisions into the big budget bills, the bill that has to pass, right? Every state has a big budget bill it has to pass. And I think they're getting sneaky with this. Talk to that a little bit.
Yes, so Rebecca Rauch is at it again. She is trying to sneak in another part of her Community Immunity Act into the budget. And this is a very, very sneaky, very backdoor way to get a bill passed without having public input. She knows that parents oppose this. She knows that it's a controversial bill. And so she's trying any and all avenues to try and get pieces of her bill passed through. The way that she did this was very different. Typically, what happens with budget amendment items is that it is put onto the floor, the Senate floor or the House floor, and it is rolled into the budget through yays and nays. But what she did is she actually went to the chairs of Ways and Means instead and had it rolled in that way, in a completely backdoor, non-transparent way whatsoever. So just to be clear that it is the elevated risk provision that is rolled into the budget. It does not include the portion that allows DPH to exclude children if they have not reached perceived herd immunity. But this is absolutely legislative creep. It's completely setting the framework for the community immunity regardless. And so we're asking everybody to take action in Massachusetts. This line item, the elevated risk line item, is in the budget. It is in the conference committee now. We have found this before. She's done this 5 times before on different parts of her bill. And we've always found it, and we've always been able to shoot it down. And I'm confident that we can do it again.
Wow, that's really amazing work that you guys are doing, to read those monster bills and to find the little sneaky stuff. You know, it's a real needle in a haystack, a real poison pill as well, too. It's so important what you guys are doing at Health Action Massachusetts. I want to talk about the religious exemption bill in particular right now. The representative that is sponsoring that came to speak at the hearing on Friday, Vargas, and he spoke for a while, but we just have one little clip we want to show of him. Let's show that.
I'll open up with a quote, actually. Quote, "The most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is the MMR vaccine," end quote. RFK Jr. Another quote, "I support the measles vaccine. I support the polio vaccine. I will do nothing as HHS secretary that makes it difficult or discourages people from taking either of those vaccines." RFK Jr.
Very interesting. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. getting quoted at the Capitol by a man trying to get rid of the religious exemption to vaccination. Either of you want to comment on that? Whatever you think.
Yeah. I think Andy uses a lot of the political talking points, those things that just tells you how he's ingenuine. You know, he's not genuine. If you're using talking points from different media pieces, you're not genuine. And I found that a lot of times, Andy, in the beginning, I actually met with him. And he told me his number one thing he wanted to do was take advertising away from pharma. And I said, listen, I'm on that with you. I'll jump on that with you. But he has never once proven that through his actions with Candice and I. I mean, all we do is see the political talking points, the media talking points. He's definitely, being coerced by pharma and all those people who've been trying to get rid of the religious exemption. He uses the same stuff. So it's very ingenuine.
You know,
yeah, I also think as well, it's a little bit insulting that he thinks that by quoting Bobby Kennedy, that it's going to change someone's sincerely held religious beliefs. I mean, Bobby Kennedy has absolutely nothing to do with the medical decisions that I make for my child. He has absolutely nothing to do with my religious beliefs whatsoever. And it's become very infuriating. And even going back to Rebecca Rausch and her elevated risk line item, she was on the Senate floor and she was bringing up about Trump and Bobby Kennedy and that we need to do this because he's destroying public health. And they're the ones that are politicizing this. And we're realistically just parents that are trying to live our lives, and we just want our kids to go to school. And it's been turned into something that it just really is not.
And Michael, as you know, all these years, they really do anything they can to make parents who've experienced severe vaccine injury, because our stories are so powerful. This is what they do to try and get around you listening to the story, that these are pathetic parents who are trying to grasp onto something. But as I've told many of the legislators, dude, my children had adverse events long before Kennedy was ever involved, long before Andy Wakefield was ever involved. Had nothing to do with any of them, right? So watching my children have adverse events had nothing to do with what you're politically pulling out right now. And that's why they do it. They do it to make us look like we are just silly little mothers grasping onto something.
Yeah, and it's amazing. He brings up two statements from Bobby Kennedy that have nothing to do with supporting ripping away choice, supporting violating religious and medical liberty. Bobby has stood firm on that and has never changed any of his statements about it always must be a choice and that he stands against mandates. But that's not politically expedient for the representative in that moment to bring up. One of the last, big pharma is obviously behind this. And they have an organization called SAFE that has crept into Massachusetts, but really isn't from Massachusetts, and is pushing the agenda of getting these bad bills to be passed. You actually had one individual who gave really important, scathing testimony about what the exact nature of SAFE is and about the funding mechanisms, who's supporting them. Let's show that clip from the hearing.
I've worked as a journalist in the past and have a background in investigative work. I am here in a personal capacity, but I have used investigative approach to do my research presented here based on documentation and public records. I will present to you what I found from documents I've uncovered to this date. The Safe Communities Coalition and Action Fund, lobbying for bills S1157 and House Bill 2554, which in fact, according to a website which they fund, they refer to as, quote, our landmark bill. This organization, Safe Communities Coalition and Action Fund, is not Massachusetts-based. Rather, it was founded as the Safe Action Fund in 2020 in Colorado and has since moved its headquarters to Portland, Maine, where its executive director is North Saunders. The Safe Action Fund is a registered foreign corporation in Massachusetts as of April 7th, 2025. So all its officers and directors are based in Maine, but it has one member, Catherine Blair, who is a registered agent in Massachusetts. Safe Action funds a website called Massachusetts Families for Vaccines, although it is not an officially registered organization under that name, according to my research. So to recap, Safe Action Fund is a Colorado-funded, Maine-based organization that is registered as a foreign corporation in Massachusetts using Catherine Blair as its agent. They fund a website called Massachusetts Families for Vaccines, which Catherine Blair has said she leads.
So, Candice, why don't you tell us a little bit about this organization, SAFE, and the role that they're playing in all of this?
Well, I mean, I think her testimony rounds it up pretty well about what's going on. And it's not just a threat in Massachusetts. They are indicating that they're going to be moving into New Hampshire and other states. They say that they are the ones that are responsible for the removal of the religious exemption in Maine. It's very clear that they have a coordinated agenda that they are trying to move forward with apparent funding from Big Pharma. But I do want to point out a couple of things. Firstly, that Katie Blair testified, North Saunders were there, the Maine Families for Vaccines were all there. They were all there at the hearing. When the testimony was given on the organizations and their relationships with Big Pharma, I wish everybody could have seen the joint public health faces. And I think it was just by far the most perfect timing, because it had been hours and hours and hours of testimony, and it just completely stood out and also blew arguments out of the water for that this is what Massachusetts families wants. That's not the case. The part that I thought was very important in the testimony too was where she referenced that Massachusetts Families for Vaccines calls it their landmark bill, because Andy Vargas came forward early on and said the reason why he put this bill forward was for an immunocompromised constituent. So again, when you go on their website, it clearly states that it is their landmark bill, which shows Vargas to be not telling the truth. So I thought that it was perfect timing. It really, again, their faces were just absolutely incredible because they were shocked with that information. And again, the hearing day was just packed with parents on our side. We had parents, teachers, scientists, doctors, homeschoolers, faith leaders, all of these people, and it was incredible. But on their side, every single person that was testifying was either an organization or a professional connected to said organizations. I do not recall a single parent that came forward that was a concerned citizen of Massachusetts.
Yeah. So we're almost out of time here, but I think what's important is what happens next. What should the whole Northeast be looking out for? Because Candice, you and I were talking about this hearing, and you said to me, Michael, we don't need to sound the alarm throughout the country right now. Everybody doesn't have to come for this hearing. But that could be coming, right? We might be looking. So just lay out, we have a national audience here. Lay out for us, what do you think might happen next? What should people be worried about? What should we expect and not get too concerned about? Just lay out that kind of landscape for people to understand.
Historically, the bills have moved out of public health, so it would not surprise me if we see those movements. From the date of the hearing, based off the rules that have they haven't been adopted, but the legislature is following, they have 60 days to make a decision on the bills. Whether it dies, moves out of committee, goes into a commission. There's different types of things that can happen, but they have 60 days to make that decision. They can apply for an additional 30 days after that, but there are no more deadline extensions at all that could be granted. And then if it moves into another committee, typically that's where we've seen these bills die. But if we see movement in this committee, that is when Massachusetts is absolutely going to be ringing the alarm bell, because that means that it is moving even closer toward a floor vote, and we need to do everything that we can to stop this. And historically, the feedback that we have been given is that it is our collective voice and the amount of people that were calling, emailing, having meetings and opposing this that stopped the bill moving forward in that subsequent committee. And so if we see those movements, we're absolutely going to be ringing the alarm bell and calling for help from everybody across Massachusetts, across New England.
Excellent overview. Yeah, Allison, you've been doing this for a very long time. You've been at this battle for a real long time. Yeah, please close us out and let us know what people need to know and should be doing right now.
I'm going to say it can't ever get to the floor in Massachusetts. We have to kill it in that second committee. That is crucial. I've been doing this a really long time. Almost all bills in Massachusetts, there's 7,000 bills a session. Most bills go to the wayside. Everyone gets only one testimony, one hearing. And we already did that, right? That's where you come out with guns blazing. The next stage to come out is when they decide what happens to it. Then we have to really, again, come out with guns blazing, and make sure our efforts are well received. We don't want to go in there screaming and yelling. And we want everybody to be at their best behavior with their best arguments. And we have to have that happen if it goes on to another committee, for sure. In every other state, it's a little different because ours is a 2-year session. Everyone else is a little bit faster. So even though ours is slower, all it does is suck Candice and I in more, and others like us, to doing this 24 hours a day for 2 years instead of having it be fast. We are constantly having to be on our toes.
Yeah, in California, they have a 10-month session. They have a lot, and then only 2 months off. So they have a similar battle. In New York, we have 6 months. But Candice, I think you have one final point to make.
Yes, so there is another bill. I know we've been talking about the religious exemption and the community immunity, but the minor consent language is also in another bill, which has not had a hearing yet. It's a bill that aims to expand abortion access. And in that, it allows minors to consent to all preventative care, including abortion, but it also includes sterilization as well. And so we have a hearing We haven't had a date for that yet, but we're also asking parents to make sure that they're watching our website, our social media, to really stay on top of this, because this minor consent piece is extremely dangerous. And we need to make sure that we're showing up for that hearing as well to stop that minor consent provision.
Healthactionma.org. That's who you want to go if you're in Massachusetts. Even in the surrounding areas, we need to keep an eye on this. CHD TV is going to be covering this. The Defender just did a big story on this yesterday as well, too. So Children's Health Defense will be all over this, all eyes on Massachusetts right now. Just like all eyes were on Hawaii a few months ago, and they killed it back there. I'm feeling very optimistic, and just with the organization and the efforts that you ladies have, it's just fantastic. God bless you. Thank you. We'll have you on again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you so much. The last point I just want to make on this, we saw this Representative Vargas invoking Bobby Kennedy on the floor. We heard Candice tell us how the chair was paying attention, didn't go to the bathroom for the whole hearing. In my view, do you know what that is? That's Bobby Kennedy over at HHS having the power that he has. They want to make sure if they move forward with this, all I's are dotted, all T's are crossed. Whereas in the past, in 2016, 2019, in New York and California, there was almost this flippant lack of regard for us. So all of these things work together, right? Whether it's on the state and local level, whether it's federal, whether it's an election, whatever is happening, they all work together. And you might not always see the exact result you want. Why isn't this happening? Why isn't this moving faster? But you have to understand there is an overall impact that all of our efforts are having. And thank God for that, man, because I remember when, I felt like I was in the ghetto in the medical freedom movement for years. And, so many of us did. And that's not the case anymore. We are not in the political ghetto anymore. And now stay tuned. We have one more segment coming up from the People's Story. This is, as is month of June is covering, another horrible story about the Gardasil shot, the HPV shot. Let's show that.
These are all Gardasil injured too, that wanted their names put on the bus.
Okay, this is another Gardasil story. Yet again, reporting on Gardasil damaging and wrecking the lives of beautiful young people here in America. So tell us who you both are.
I'm Taylor, and 10 years ago, I got the Gardasil vaccine, and I've never been the same since. I'm gonna let my mom tell the story because it honestly just feels like it's been a 10-year long day. It's like all a blur kind of for me, so.
Okay. I'm Teresa, I'm Taylor's mom. In 2007, she got her first Gardasil shot.
How old were you then?
11.
11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And what made you go and have it?
We actually were in for a sick visit, and the doctor suggested it and said it was going to become mandatory for all girls.
And that I would have to come back.
And that she would just have to come back and get it.
So can you remember why you were in there? What made you sick while you were in there?
I think it was like a flu-like thing that was going around, and she had always been the type of child when she would get sick, things tended to hang on to her. It took her a while to get rid of like colds and anything like that. So I think we had just basically gone in for that.
So this is what I'm trying to understand. I can't understand this. You're sick,
mm-hmm.
and they want to give you a vaccination while you're sick.
Right, that and 3 other ones. That wasn't the only one that we got that day.
So instead of addressing while you were there, they suggest you have the Gardasil. What else?
When we were there that day, we got the vaccinations, and we had talked to her about it. Had probably been like 3 or 4 weeks, and she had been feeling bad. So that day, I mean, they did some blood tests and some other stuff. Of course, everything came back. They didn't find anything. I think it was just like a flu that kind of hung on to her. After that, we went through about a 6-month period.
What were the vaccinations?
All the vaccinations.
What were the other vaccinations that I got that day?
The meningococcal, DTaP, I think. And I don't remember what the 4th one was.
It's a
right
lot
now.
of vaccines.
Yeah,
the
it's a
HPV
lot.
is 3 vaccines
right.
in one.
Mm-hmm.
DTaP. There's a lot of vaccines you had in one day when you were sick. You went in because you were sick. That's such medical negligence. Unreal. Shouldn't have happened.
And at that time, I mean, I really didn't question it. I mean, I pretty much listened to whatever the doctor said because I just thought that, you know, they obviously knew way more than I did. But we went into like a 6-month period where she just, I mean, she wasn't feeling good. She had always loved to go to school. She was a very good student, athletic, tons of friends, very social. And all of a sudden, she just was at home on the couch. It seemed like when she was trying to do her schoolwork, the things that she did so quickly before and just kind of whipped off, she would be working on forever, for like hours, days. I mean, and just never seemed to complete them.
Even my speech.
Changed.
I started getting so scared to just talk to other people because I felt like I couldn't talk like I used to. Afraid I was going to mispronounce something that maybe before I would have known how to pronounce and things like that.
Yeah, her cognitive thinking just became very messy.
Now this is after how many vaccines?
This is just the first one.
Just the first.
Right. And for whatever reason, we decided not to continue on with the next two until later on. It was 2010. She was developing what we first thought was acne over her eye, but it just kept growing and growing. The doctor had said, you know, it may just turn around and go away, or we may have to go in and take it off. It got to the point where it was almost the size of an egg. And they had decided that it could be cancerous. They did like all kinds of testing, still weren't sure. So we were gonna, you know, we were working on going in to get that off. They were trying to get us into the surgeon, and they had suggested the Gardasil vaccine again. And when we started talking about
Gardasil vaccine got to do with the thing growing on your eye?
Because they had convinced me that that it fights all different kinds of cancers, and that we, you know, should go ahead and get that right.
Vaccine fights all different. Because they're just lying. You know that they're just barefaced lying.
I do now. But then I did not know that. I actually was kind of panicking. I was in panic mode. We had waited on going in to get the tumor removed, and during the next visit was like a pre-surgery visit where you go in and you're getting ready for the surgery. They're just, you know, your physical, and they had given her what is the third vaccine.
They gave her the third
before
Gardasil.
the surgery, right before the surgery.
So when did she have you had the second one? What was the gap between the second and third vaccine?
It was only a few weeks. It's only a few weeks.
That is not okay.
No. And after she had that, we had gone into the surgeon. The surgeon was going to take the tumor out. They couldn't do it that day because they had found out that it had a nerve running through the tumor. So we were had to reschedule again. And they had set us up to go into what Ohio State James Cancer Hospital is where we ended up at. But in the meantime, we're still, you know, she's passing out. She's in bed. We're carrying her to and from the bathroom 15 times a day. Her whole life was just taken away from her. Every time we went in, I mean, she wasn't even getting out of bed, but they would check her for all types of sexually transmitted diseases. They would do pregnancy tests. I mean, it just was.
Yeah, she was like, they're like, why are you gaining weight? Are you pregnant? And I was like, no, I literally, I can't get out of bed. It feels like I'm paralyzed. And that, they just could not wrap their head around that.
No,
Did they accuse you? What we hear from the other girls is that they were accused of making it up.
Oh, yeah. I say to her, it's almost like the Salem witch trials of like 2016, because it's like we don't all know each other, but we have the same symptoms and we have the same things, and they just want to tell us that we're crazy. They tried to get me into psychologists, and I did go see a psychologist.
We did go see 2 different ones, and they both stated that it definitely was not in her head, that it was something else. They're like, you know, you need to keep pursuing this and keep going, even if this doctor tells you that, you know, it is. You need to keep going because it's not. So we, the next visit, I mean, we were in and out of the emergency room.
Staph infection from the hospital, just all kinds of stuff.
Right, it was just one thing after another.
So really sick.
Yeah, I thought I was dying.
Yeah,
I
we
honestly,
did.
I told her like, I basically like said goodbye. Like I was just like, I don't think I'm gonna make it.
We were on like such good terms with the EMS, which was in our neighborhood, and they constantly were at our house because her heart rate would go so high, and they would take her to the emergency room because they're like, your heart rate's so high, we're afraid that you're gonna have a heart attack. So we went through this for quite a while, getting to the 4th Gardasil shot, which she had.
Wait, why would you have, you don't have 4, you have 3.
No, right, exactly. We were in the doctor's office, and Taylor was really nauseated, so I had gone out to the car to get her nausea medicine. I knew that they were offering the flu shot, and I told her, she wasn't 18 yet, but I still was like, if you think that you want to get the flu shot, I just 100% wasn't sure, but we knew we weren't doing any more Gardasil.
They were arguing with me about the flu shot, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna meet you in the middle. I'll get a flu shot, I'm not getting the Gardasil shot. The way that they thought was, well, your first shot was so far away from the other 2 that it was probably not effective, so you need to get this other shot to complete the series.
Of the Gardasil.
Of the Gardasil.
Gardasil.
So they knew it wasn't a mistake that they gave you 4.
Well, we don't know.
She was at the car, and I had said, you know, fine, give me the flu vaccine, but I'm not getting the Gardasil. I get 1 shot, and I was like, okay, like I'm not getting the 2nd shot. I just wanted the flu vaccine, and she goes, well, I just gave you the Gardasil.
Oh my God.
And I'm like,
yeah, and to this day, I'm just like, I wish I would have just let her thrown up all over them instead of going out to the car.
Wait.
To get the nausea medicine.
Back in the doctor's surgery again, back in the pediatrician, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
That is criminal.
Well, her surgeon actually called the doctor that gave her the Gardasil shot, and they actually had a verbal yelling match while we sat in the surgeon's office. So,
because we didn't know that you're not supposed to get vaccines within so many weeks of surgery, like
or after surgery.
Or after.
This one was after the surgery, but
we didn't know.
We had no idea, and we were still waiting on the diagnosis for the tumor on her head.
You are really lucky to be alive from the stories that we had.
Very lucky.
Wait, so when please tell me this pediatrician's not still practicing.
Yeah, she is.
She actually had the audacity to try to approach me in public once.
Yeah.
That's how delusioned she is to everything that's happened.
She's going to be hurting other people. That is such bad practice. Everything that happened to you is awful.
Yes.
Tell everybody what this is. The Gardasil vaccine has taken away from your life.
It's taken away the quality of my life, the quality of my everyday. It's taken my childhood.
Your freedom that you should be having right now.
Yeah, my independence, my freedom, my future. I mean, I should be in college right now, but I'm not. I took a break because I have so much medical stuff going on right now, and hopefully I'll get to go back. But I mean, it took away my cognitive thinking. I couldn't walk. I mean, it's taken virtually everything from me.
Yeah, and the irony of it is that she was pre-med.
Yeah, I really did. I wanted to go into medicine, and after I figured out that I had POTS and stuff.
Before we knew it was from the Gardasil.
Before we knew it was from the Gardasil, I just wanted
what?
Postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome.
It's basically the blood doesn't go to my head and my heart when it should. It pulls to my hands. You can see they're kind of purpley. It pulls to my hands and my feet. So when I'm standing up, gravity is very literal to me. My body can't push blood up.
Which is why a lot of the girls pass out.
Right, the main thing, the mother was telling me that before her daughter passed away from the Gardasil, she was like, Mom, I'm so dizzy.
Yeah.
So dizzy. And so this is a huge side effect to the
Right.
Gardasil, because this is what Josh and I, hear the whole time. The dizziness.
And they just call it POTS.
Yeah, there's a tilt table test that they can do to diagnose it. Mm-hmm. And luckily we did get that diagnosed in there, and did work with a neurologist who helped us get her upright and out of bed. And, she has, good days, and bad days, but never great days yet.
No.
But we're also detoxing, and she's in like several therapies a week, which are helping, but we're trying to like stay off the medicine.
So you're pretty much looking after her 24/7.
She's my caretaker. I mean, it's honestly, it's sad. We don't really get much time away from each other.
And she's 21, so that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
You're right, you should be at college. I have a 21-year-old daughter who's racing around doing all these amazing things, and that should be you.
And everyone's racing around me, but I'm here.
So sorry.
Right. And most people her age don't understand.
So you don't have many friends?
No. People our age, they can't wrap their head around it. I don't know. It's just, and I don't know if there's like an empathy chip missing or something. People don't understand. They don't want to take the time to understand, especially when they're young and they just want to be partying and where they can advance.
We definitely got to get in contact with Brittany, who was sitting exactly where you are not that long ago, who was saying exactly the same things as you're saying.
I would love that.
She's lovely girl, a little bit older, but just a really lovely girl. And
check that out.
Yeah, I would love that.
And then Bella, my daughter, has started a group of Gardasil injury people just like you. You should do great.
I'll have to join it.
You're all saying something.
Well, that was kind of the first thing that really resonated with me, is that we all are from different places around the world, but we're all saying the same thing and the same symptoms. And they're such odd symptoms, like the dizziness, the passing out.
And these are symptoms, a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing, hers started back in 2007, a little bit later. And a lot of these girls are, had started, the last few years. And I never talked about it because back then there wasn't a support system for this. There was none.
Oh, they had Child Protective Services on you. I mean,
Right.
Any good day that I could get to a school for a part day, they would have a truancy officer hunt me down and get me and be like, if you don't get into school, your parents are gonna go to jail and we're gonna get Child Protective Services. And I would be like, look, I'm sorry, like this, I wish that this wasn't my life, but this is my life. I don't know what to tell you. I can't.
Yeah, and we had to start, even when she could get out, we had to start watching like where she was and what she was doing and, where she was seen, because
if people would see me, they'd be like, oh, well, you can go and get dinner. Well, you're not sick. Or like I was getting home instruction, which is basically just school at my house. And people would be like, why is our money going towards this girl getting home instruction? Like people couldn't wrap their head around it.
Right, and she would be seen out for a couple hours, but what they didn't know is, that hour or 2 hours that she was out, she would be in bed for the next 3 or 4 days or week.
But I was just trying to have, some normalcy.
Wow, God, I'm so sorry. This has happened to you. We all are.
I'm just thankful that you guys are here to tell the story and give me an outlet.
But we have improved.
Yeah.
This has been the year of improving with detoxing and some other stuff. And
what are your symptoms now? So tell us how. Tell us how you are in yourself. So do you have pain anywhere? Is there
Yeah.
Where's your pain?
I always have pain in my stomach, constant. But every day I will go through. I'll have a headache every day. My whole body hurts a lot. Honestly, I have really bad arthritis and fibromyalgia and nerve pain. I honestly, all my symptoms, I could go on and on.
Gastroparesis.
Yeah.
She's still the dizziness. That's why she was sitting outside.
What's your sleeping like?
Not well, but if I get to sleep, I'll wake up. But I used to not sleep at all because my adrenaline from the pots would just be going all of the time and I wouldn't know how to shut off. But I've gotten to a point where I can usually get to sleep, but I usually have to use Benadryl or something.
And no one's taking responsibility for this?
No.
Not yet, no.
No.
Have you reported it? The
Yes.
back injury? You seriously need to get a lawyer. It's not okay. No, this is okay.
I think for so long it was so many people, when you would talk about it, would just shut you down and call you crazy, and
the insults that she's had to go through
yeah,
at the hospitals and doctors' offices and with the school and everything, and you know, with her not able to get out of bed, I think it just was, we're now to the point where we are actually fighting back and talking about it, and so it's finally
time.
at that point.
It's time.
What's your advice to parents who think that the Gardasil is a suitable vaccine for their 11-year-old daughter or son?
I just want to know, at 11 years old, how is that vaccine really going to benefit your 11-year-old? I mean, that's my main question. 11-year-olds aren't like sexually active.
Makes no sense.
Someone's just pointing out that they're for 9. Yes, I was just, because you had it when you were 11, didn't you? That's why I was picking it up. But yeah, 9 are about testing it in babies now. Right now, as we speak, they're testing the Gardasil in babies to see if that could be a suitable way forward. And then they're going to hide the Gardasil in a combined vaccine. It's wicked. It's just totally wicked. So, I'm sorry this happened to you. And I really don't think, I think that the doctor who did that to you needs to be reported to the medical board. So it's not okay what happened to you at all. You were never supposed to have 4 Gardasil vaccines. There is no safety testing on anything, everything that happened to you should never have happened.
Definitely.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for... I don't think you guys understand how freeing it is to have someone actually want to hear your story and to have an outlet.
Right.
And you've made it more mainstream now. People talk about it. When before it was such a whispered subject.
Right.
But so thank you guys.
Do you know Hannah Robinson?
I know her mom is on the groups, but I do not know her.
You're very similar in your positive attitude and the way you are. We should hook you guys up together, definitely.
I would love that, because I'm like an alien to kids my age, so.
Yeah, she's lovely. And then this other lovely girl, Brittany, this morning. There's some great people out there who've sadly been injured. So we should collectively write a book or something. There's a lot we could do.
We've talked about that.
Yeah, definitely. Now,
they want me to show you how much they love you. You ready? Mm-hmm. You ready for this? Okay, stand it around. We kind of snuggle in between you both. So. Nah, see all those hearts?
Oh my gosh.
See that?
Oh my gosh. It's gonna make me cry.
It's all for you, babe.
That's all for you. That's all of those. Look at that.
Hi. Oh my gosh.
That's some serious love. Look how much your daughter's getting loved.
Thank you.
They're always going to be there for you, these people. This is your new family. Look at them.
I need a family.
That's wonderful. So they're all on Periscope.
Thank you so much for this.
They mean it as well, by the way. Don't look. Oh, it's just not okay what's happened to you. These people are here for you, okay?
Thank you so much.
Right. So what we're going to do, I'll just turn off my face. They're still coming in, by the way. We'll hook you up to Periscope so you can be part of this. Oh, that was supposed to make you happy.
I know, it's just so overwhelming. I feel like this is like an out-of-body experience. It's like 10 years have built up to this moment to be able to like have people listening to what I'm saying. It's just crazy.
There is one more thing that I wanted to say. We did walk into a doctor's office the other day. It was actually a dermatologist here in town, and the main doctor walked in after she had talked to one of the people that had worked for her, and she came in and she said, "Taylor, I hear that you have POTS." And she said, "Yes." And she said, "Did you get it after a vaccine?" And Taylor said, "Yes." And she said, "Was it the Gardasil?" And Taylor said, "Yes."
Immediate tears.
And that's the first time anyone in the Western medicine community had ever actually acknowledged the fact that it 100% was a Gardasil injury. So that was a good day. And that just happened, and it's been almost 10 years. So
It's changing.
It is changing. Thanks to you guys, it's changing.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot. It's just also thanks to things like Periscope, we are uniting, and we're going to stop this. Everybody here, we have different vaccines that have affected our children. My child was MMR. His child was what was it? DTaP. Patrick Boys as well, and it doesn't matter. Almost, it's just the fact that it's happened. It should never have happened to any of our children. It shouldn't have happened to you or my son or his son. All those beautiful girls there that lost their lives. So none of this is okay. So we're going to keep going. And your story is so important. Just by telling your story, you've just saved someone. Right, Periscope, we're going to come back. They're still telling you that they love you, by the way.
Thank
still
you.
happening.
I love you guys.
And who's going to set you up on Periscope? And we'll be we're back in a minute because we've got another story sitting right here. So we're back in just a few minutes. You coming for Gardasil? You are lucky that you did not die.
I was so ready to die, and that's the crazy thing is I was just ready, and now I'm ready to fight. So it's like it's different.
Well, you know what? You know why you're not dead? And this is what I believe. It's because you've got God as a mission for you. You are going to be a poster child. You and Hannah and that girl Brittany today, and you guys are going to be the poster children for other people. No, not thank you. It should never have happened to you.
Because like you don't this.
the little boy that lives behind us, he was damaged with vaccines. And now
cerebral palsy now. And
yeah, he has brain damage because when he went into the hospital, they over-medicated him. The people that just moved in across the street from us, one of their relatives is vaccine damaged from the flu vaccine.
They're not going to be able to brush us under the rug.
What are they going to do?
This and all CHD TV programming is made possible by generous support from viewers like you. Please consider making a contribution today to keep our programming going strong. Thank you.